After suffering an unprecedented loss to Alabama last episode, Mason Armstrong and the LSU Tigers aim to bounce back in the second half of the season as they remain the 6th ranked in the nation and control their own destiny for another national title as they start here against Texas State. In what should be a cupcake matchup here for the Tigers, Mason would lead the charge by rolling up in the middle for 13 and dicing up to Jack Mashburn in the corner of the end zone to ride the momentum. However, the offensive line struggles continue as even against this team, Mason has to run for his life from the defense before eventually finding an angle up the sideline. This leads to our favorite target of the season, Kyren Lacy, to have an opportunity to break open on the seam, and we have what seems to be a safe lead of 14. However, Texas State would show some fight, but hopefully this dot from Mason to Malik Neighbors would put them to bed as he breaks free from the entire defense and scampers away into the end zone as we go back up by 2 scores. But somehow, someway, Texas State is consistently hanging with us despite our offense's best attempts at throwing haymakers on deep passes like this one to Brian Thomas down the right side and to Kyren Lacy on the slant to stay up by 14. This still would not be enough as we are not performing well on defense, as here in the third it is still a ball game, but Mason leads the team by finding Malik on back-to-back plays to hopefully put this team away. And at this point, Texas State is using their 9 lives at the Bobcat and is fighting to have an upset of the century, but Mason does his best to put us in field goal range with his lengthy scramble, but completely ruins it by throwing a desperation ball with little time left as Texas State intercepts us in the red zone to force overtime. We get the ball first in overtime as Mason wastes little time by finding Chris Hilton on the sideline on 3rd down and Jack Mashburn on the seam to give us an opportunity to escape with a W. But the defense allowed a touchdown on their next drive, but held them to a field goal on their second go around as we now have a chance to win. Mason takes advantage by running for his life as per usual before finding the left pylon as we mercifully escape an upset by defeating Texas State 48-45. If we play like we have been the previous 2 weeks, then we are bound to be upset by more capable schools such as Ole Miss, but Mason realizes this and executes the pass to Malik and puts his team on his shoulders by rolling up to the left and scoring for himself to give us an early lead. Finally, Mason decides to keep his eyes downfield on a scramble as Malik Neighbors flashes right in front of him on the right side and beelines upfield after getting the ball before finally being brought down. But Mason has to run yet again as nobody can get open as he scores his 2nd rushing score of this game. The offense in this one has been ugly so far, but this deep throw to Brian Thomas would hopefully spark us in the right direction as this ball is placed beautifully and he evades defenders for a long touchdown reception to extend our lead. The final dagger would come as Mason dials in on a seam ball to Jack Mashburn in the red zone to put away the Rebels 31-25 here in Death Valley. That game propels us to become ranked 6th in the nation as we travel to one of the toughest places to play in Jordan here against Auburn. Playing a night game against Auburn will never be easy, but Mason starts this one off by firing a pass to Kyren Lacy for 22 before getting the ball to Malik Neighbors over the middle for the score to quiet this ruckus crowd. This Auburn defense has yet to live up to their expectations with Hugh Freeze at the helm as Mason brings the heat with his legs by escaping the pressure and finding open grass down the right side before eventually being brought down past midfield. Mason will use his legs once again as now in the red zone. He dials it up to the right pylon to give us a 2-possession lead over the Tigers. All game long, Mason has soared across his defense like their Eagle Independence as he floats by multiple defenders and is brought down by the Auburn logo. As if his legs weren't enough, Mason finally uses his arms to Brian Thomas down the right side before finally taking it in to defeat Auburn 24-17. Now here on another road game against Arkansas in these clean white unis, Mason begins by finding highly touted Malik Neighbors by midfield and we give it to Brian Thomas in the end zone to give us an early lead. And I absolutely love it when my receivers block like this as he absolutely pancakes his corner and frees Mason to the right side before eventually being brought down. The corners were afraid of the run as they had their eyes in the backfield as Brian Thomas got behind them to make a crazy diving catch, which led to Chris Hilton breaking free in the end zone as we're now pulling away from the Razorbacks. Brian Thomas comes right back the next drive after we give it to him on the curl and find another different receiver, Kyren Lacy, to regain our 2-possession lead. And every week, Mason finds a way to escape from the defense and uses his speed to pull away like he does here as the defense seemingly just does not want to tackle him. And back on the goal line here once more, we find Malik Neighbors in the corner of the end zone. Somehow, someway, Mason continues to pull away from the defense as he runs 10 yards backwards before eventually getting the first down and does the same exact thing to get to the corner of the end zone and cross the plane as we eventually put away Arkansas 48-13. With yet another legendary performance this season, Mason would win his 2nd straight Heisman, throwing for 4,545 passing yards, rushing for another 1,164, and scoring 65 total touchdowns. However, we did not do well enough to make the top 4 for the college football playoffs as we finished 6th, but we will play Syracuse here in the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. And here we are in the Peach Bowl as Mason dials it up between the corner and safety to Brian Thomas before finding John McBride while taking a hit from the blitz to give us an early lead. Malik Neighbors would make his way into this game as he got the play action pass off the corner route for a first down and received a deep ball as the defense busted their coverage after Mason rolled out to give us a 7-point lead. The Orange is hanging in there with us as they had tied it up at 14 seen before half, but Mason still has time on the board as he evades the pressure and weaves in and out of the defense. With 44 seconds left, we have a risk as Mason finds Mashburn in the end zone right before halftime. You would think by this point, Syracuse would place a contain, a spy, something on Mason, but they don't, and he exposes them forward by scrambling to his left and gaining a chunk of yards before keeping the ball for himself to cross the paint. And with this final touchdown past the neighbors, the game would be inevitably out of sight for the Orange as we close out our second year at LSU with another bowl victory, but with a sour taste at the same time, as Mason and the Tigers eye for a national championship in his junior year.